Here's my entry to the Eurobricks contest TC24, Space Police and Robbers. So the name of my model is Special Delivery, for reasons that we will see. I wrote up a lot of backstory for it on the Eurobricks page, if you're not looking from there. But the basic idea is that we've got some determined police officers trying to fight an overwhelmingly powerful criminal groups in the galaxy, but have very little resources to do it. So this here is my undercover space police truck, and it's got some interesting features that are kind of showing some creative solutions that they're having to use because of their low budget. So this is what the truck looks like. As far as the decorations go, we got my classic Mercedes Aerox license plates. This sticker here because there are still Star Wars fans in the distant future. Then I just started pulling out some random stickers that I used to have on my laptop. So, I love something. It's pretty much illegible. Got this nice old Eurobricks sticker I used to have on there. Now I have a better one that's not this beat up. And random stamp I found. Just adding a little bit of character to the truck. Plus some flags. Old Legoland bricks. Just trying to make it look a little bit more personalized. Maybe the most basic function I added was some landing gear. So we've got one leg in the front, and two in the back. So I guess it's doubled, so like 6 legs total. The one in the front is independently spring-loaded, so it will stay up and pop down. The ones in the rear are the same idea. Just get rid of this container here so it's a little lighter. Got a knob I can rotate here. So the 4 pop up, then pop down. So they're geared together with a bunch of 16-tooth gears. So they pop up, pop down, and support the rear. Thanks to a mechanism using these 2 pullback motors here and some ratchets, we've got this conveyor belt here that can be used to unload the container. Unfortunately, after building more of it, it seems to have some trouble unloading, trouble with torque, but I'll give it a shot in a second. Let's see how this goes. Ooh, that's actually not bad. It was worse the last couple times I tried. So, you'll notice that when we remove this container here, we've got some engines on the back. So, what is that for? You'll also notice that we've got a door here in a kind of strange spot. And then we'll notice that it matches up with this ray door on the back of the truck. So, this is actually part of my police's strategy here. So, what we've got here, if we rotate this knob here, can pop the rear doors off, then deploy this big old spike. Then, after the spike is out here, by turning another knob on the top, we can expand them out towards the 4 corners here, creating a passageway. So this whole mechanism here, you might be recognizing it. There's a similar mechanism on a certain Separatist vehicle in Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and the strategy with both is the same. So, this thing becomes kind of its own independent spaceship, deploys its spike, then it flies around, rams into the hull of the enemy spaceship, then deploys the spikes, piercing a larger hole in their hull, and then soldiers can jump down the hole through the middle of the spikes into a hallway and board the ship. So that's the idea here. So in here we've got some of the most complicated mechanisms in the whole model. So these knobs here are for the deployment. I've taken off the side here. So it just runs these 2 long racks, one on each side, to move it all out. The knob on the top here runs those bevel gears there. Then, let's get a flashlight. So, runs that 22 gear, which runs these 2 turntables. So these turntables are meshing with these 15 long beams, which are basically there to provide drive and extension. I probably could have done it with 16 long axles relatively easily, but I only had one to spare, or I only have one that's real Lego, the rest of mine are clones, and for a contest you have to have all real Lego. So I used this, which had the interesting side effect of, so right here on the turntable it's nicely locked in by the square profile, but when it moves further that way, into the light bluish gray half of the turntable, it's also a square profile, but it's not rotating, so it actually gets locked into position, which is actually works out alright, because I don't need to deploy the claw or the spike when it's all the way back. So then if we look out here, you can see some of my mechanism. Let's see how I can show this. So that is the basic way that it works. Blew off my knob. So in and out. And I think I broke something there, but that's the basic way it works. Two separate linkages linked together to slide them in and out on these axles. So in order to allow the men to travel from the truck into the container while it's still on board, we've got that little door there, but then we've also got this ray door back here. So by rotating this knob here, we can retract it. Now the bottom does tend to jam up a little bit, so I'll have to give it a push. Yeah. So, get that there. Then bring it out the other way. I'm fairly satisfied with this mechanism I have here in the roof of the truck to activate it. I've always wanted to use one of these 12-tooth gears with the axle, and it worked pretty nicely here. So at the cab here we've got opening doors, naturally. Like a lot of the other contestants, I figured this would be a good contest to try using a Technic figure in. And this one here actually happens to be the one police Technic figure they made. It's the only one I have, but worked out pretty well for this contest. So we've got two seats in the front, and then in the back we've got some other benches facing sideways, plus some weapons hanging here and there. So I had a kind of fun time building these. Got big old rifle. That. This here, a bit smaller, and then I made a couple of these pistols as well, all for the Technic figures to hold. One other thing in the cab, I guess I've got a little bit of tilt adjustment on my steering yoke here. I can rotate it, but I don't know what it's actually supposed to be controlling. Whatever the steering system on a ship like this would be. So, after dropping off its cargo, the truck has one more trick up its sleeve. It's got this collapsible hood with joystick-operated gun. So, knocked off two of my shots opening that, but the joystick can go left and right, up and down. The sides of the hood kind of limit its firing angles, but it's kind of necessary, I think, for this mechanism. So now that I've found the shots for this gun, I can show the one other nice feature, the shooting, naturally, which is operated by a knob down here, and interestingly rotates the dark gray part of the 6-shooter and keeps the middle bit stationary. So getting this to work was actually fairly complicated. Based on this 28-tooth turntable here, and if we pull it apart, we'll see we've got this square 1x1 stud on a 1x1 beam on a dark bluish gray 3-long axle with stud. So that is locked to the yellow part out here, and the square bit on here is linked to the square profile on the fixed part of the turntable in there, keeping it from moving, but still allowing the whole outside to turn according to the turntable based on this. So that was a a touch that I rather liked. One other thing I added was this little hole in the grill here, which with proper aiming of the gun can allow you to shoot out that hole, which just allows this thing to have a little bit of offense without doing the full dramatic reveal. I think that wraps it up for this model. A very interesting experience to build, very much out of my comfort zone for Technic. Never tried building a spaceship with it before, but because of that I was able to add some pretty interesting functions. A lot of stuff that just wouldn't make sense anywhere else, but in a model like this you can just be creative, so pretty cool. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it all turned out, I think.